But you don't have to go that far to see the impact of a high debt, high crime, together with high racial grievance-mongering city-state. Victoria is the epicentre of the left's race obsessions in this country. It's clear that the democracy deniers are pressing ahead with the very racial division that more than 60% of Australians, including a clear majority of Victorians, rejected in the Voice referendum just 2 years ago. It's like the referendum never happened. In Victoria, we now have a permanent state-based voice, plus a treaty, broad in scope and all underpinned by a radical ideology that will impact just about every new bill introduced into the Victorian Parliament. Now, the treaty called for yet another apology to Aboriginal people, which was delivered this week by Premier Jacinta Allan, who spoke of the harm that was done and for the harm that continues to be done to Victoria's Indigenous population due to colonisation. And she vowed that we will not look away from what she called the truth. Colonisation of what is now called Victoria was not peaceful, this is what she said. It was rapid and violent. Lands and waters were taken without consent. Communities were displaced, languages silenced, children removed, lives lost. That was the comment from the Victorian Premier. Well, here are a few home truths for Jacinta Allan about colonisation. Without it, we wouldn't have the Parliament House where she delivered that apology, nor would we have a parliamentary democracy. Without colonisation, we wouldn't have modern healthcare or the economic prosperity that came with industrialisation. We wouldn't have the rule of law. We wouldn't have property rights or the infrastructure that makes our lives easy, that have significantly boosted our life expectancy in this country. And we wouldn't have the benefit of the Judeo-Christian foundation centred on valuing human dignity and the worth of all people. Every advantage that we enjoy that makes Australia a peaceful and prosperous land began with colonisation. So no, I'm not sorry, Jacinta Allan, and I don't need you to be sorry on my behalf. And I don't believe there's anything to be gained by this relentless self-flagellation and the humiliation rituals demanded by the race-obsessed left. It's important to understand that this toxic agenda doesn't stop with racial division. It demands racial privilege reserved exclusively for one small segment of the community. We see evidence of that in Australia in both public and the private sector. Those who identify as Indigenous are entitled to additional benefits or preferential treatment, whether it's free dental care, low admission scores for university courses, or access to all sorts of additional resources. You can call it positive discrimination, but it's just plain old discrimination based on racial identity. And get ready for another piece of discrimination to be normalised with something called colonial load leave. Yes, colonial load leave, where Indigenous staff can take additional days off work each year to cope with the ongoing harm of colonisation and the emotional burden of working in colonial structures. Seriously. Monash University is among institutions providing this leave to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander staff. Those who identify as Indigenous can take 3 days of colonial load leave on full salary in addition to their regular leave provisions. Indigenous staff are also entitled to take 5 days of ceremonial leave on full salary to observe any cultural duties or events or NAIDOC week functions. That's 8 days of additional leave on full pay available exclusively to Indigenous staff. Of course, those in academia think this is just wonderful. This is a fantastic idea. They've been, well, those institutions are rotten with a sort of groupthink and ideological capture that sees universities, including Monash, force students to complete a compulsory Indigenous Australian Voices module full of radical racial politics. We broke that story on Sky News 3 years ago and things have only got worse, a lot worse. Clearly, Monash doesn't see the racial exceptionalism as undesirable. It is proud of its discriminatory practice. But organisations providing colonial load leave not only send a terrible message, but it sets Yet another ill-advised precedent that undermines fairness and rewards people for their racial identity, not things like, I don't know, their skill set or work ethic. Singling out individuals for special privileges based solely on their racial or ethnic background doesn't eliminate racism. It does the opposite. It normalises institutional racism. It's a massive step backwards, another sign that we are heading down a dangerous road, one that was wholly rejected by the Australian people.